The demand for electric cars has ramped up in recent years. Not only are there more options when it comes to sizes and shapes, as evidenced by the ever-increasing number of EVs available at motors.co.uk, but the level of infrastructure or places to charge has increased dramatically too. It means that EV ownership is looking a whole lot more attractive for lots of people.
But will buying an electric car actually save you money? Motors.co.uk has many used EVs currently available, but today we're going to take a deeper look into the costs associated with driving a battery-powered vehicle.
As we touched on earlier, there are plenty of used electric cars out there. In fact, there are EVs to cater for all types of budgets, from older versions of the Nissan Leaf right the way through to the latest electric cars like the Skoda Enyaq.
In recent years, the number of EVs on the road has really skyrocketed as more manufacturers look to bring their own models to market. As a result, the used market now offers an incredible range of EV options. You can head to motors.co.uk today and you'll be able to filter your used car searches specifically to electric cars too.
The electric car segment is accompanied by a dizzying number of terms and figures. Deciphering them can be a little tricky, to say the least, but we're going to have a quick rundown of the ones you really need to know.
An electric car's battery is what allows it to store electricity. Without a battery, an EV wouldn't be able to work very well. They're measured in kilowatt hours, and the larger the number beforehand, the larger the battery. So, for example, the new Mercedes EQS has a huge 107.8 kilowatt hour battery, which allows it to travel for up to 453 miles on a single charge. Whereas the Skoda Enyaq with a 77 kilowatt hour battery will be able to go for about 332 miles for a single charge.
Charging is something you'll be doing a lot of if you own an electric car. Everything is measured in kilowatts or kW, and the higher the number of kilowatts, the quicker a car can be charged. Think of it as the speed of petrol or diesel coming out of the pump.
These days there are plenty of chargers across the country. In fact, the most recent figures from charging mapping service ZapMap shows that there are currently just under 37,000 chargers in the UK, with just over 59,000 connectors.
Finally, rapid and ultra-rapid chargers will deliver the speediest charge. They're best for when you're midway through a journey and don't want to stop for too long. Rapid chargers can deliver up to 50 kilowatts, while ultra-rapid units can go up to 360 kilowatts. This could deliver a 0 to 80% charge in just 20 minutes on certain cars.
When it comes to pricing, you're looking at a full charge costing around £12 to £15 when plugged into a home charger for an average EV. When you're out and about, costs do vary of course, but expect to pay around £15 for 90 miles worth of range. A home charger will be one of the easiest ways to make sure that your EV is kept topped up. It does, however, come with some requirements. You'll need off-road parking and a driveway, though some local councils might be able to discuss adding more charging provisions in your area if you contact them directly.
There aren't any government grants for home charging anymore, which puts the overall cost, including a wall box and installation, at between £800 and £1,200. These chargers deliver between 7 and 11 kilowatts of charging power, which is more than enough to fully charge an electric vehicle overnight.
Range is a key point of apprehension for a lot of people who are considering making the switch to an electric car. You need to consider it like a petrol or diesel car's tank. But really what you need to be thinking about is how far you travel on a day-to-day basis. So if you're doing short trips, if you're going to school, if you're just going to the shops, or if you're just seeing family locally, then even an average distance electric car is going to have more than enough range in the tank to keep you going on a day-to-day basis, particularly if you can charge at home.
Some of the newest EVs can travel well over 300 miles on a single charge, making them a great choice for longer distance drivers. But for many of us, that will be well above and beyond what we need on a daily basis. So what's it actually like living with an electric vehicle? Well, we caught up with Mary, who's now on to her second MG ZS EV, to find out how she's been getting on with owning an electric car.
Well, thank you so much, Mary, for taking some time out to have a chat with me. I just wanted to find out a bit more about how long you've had your electric car for.
So I've had an EV since 2018, so I have had it for a while. I did start off with a Nissan, but I've had 3 different cars since then. So each time I have upgraded to a bigger battery.
I think that's a really clever way of doing it. Especially if you have another car and many of your journeys are short, you know, a car that has a smaller battery is going to represent, well, it's going to be cheaper. So if you can use a smaller batteried car, it's going to save you money, and then you can just adjust it as you see the type of driving that you're doing, because there are cars available with larger batteries. So that's a really clever way of doing it.
What kind of journeys are you sort of regularly doing with your EV?
I use it for everything. I use it to do the school run, to go do shopping, and to help go with my dad. Everything I need, I use it for that. I don't worry about using it at all, including if I have to do long journeys as well.
I was going to ask you if you get that sort of long range anxiety. I mean, do you worry about going on those longer journeys? How do you manage?
I used to when I had my first car. The Nissan was a smaller battery, but I've got a MG ZS long range now, which is a 72 kilowatt. So on a hot summer's day, the battery range is a lot longer. It's just over 300, which is brilliant. So I do plan, and I don't tend to have anxiety in terms of the range. I just need to make sure that I have a plan A and plan B. The only issue that I do have is when you get to your charging point, sometimes it doesn't work. So the company that you use the chargers for, if you tell them it's not working, they're really good in that. They say, well, I've got this nearby if you want to use that, and they'll answer quite quickly. So in answer to your question, I used to, but I don't now, because I always make sure I don't go right to the very, very bare minimum before I think about charging. You just get used to planning ahead. And if you need to call the company, they will also help you a lot. So no, not really. And it's always, I always work out how much cheaper it is as well to petrol.
Yeah, of course, Mary. The benefits for EVs are definitely there to be had, and that's particularly the case with home charging. If you compare it to a traditional petrol car, something like a Ford Fiesta that will do about 45 miles to the gallon, 200 miles a month, that's going to be about £131. And if you compare that to an EV, if you charge it at home, you'll be able to dial that down to about £96 a month. Now, of course, that is using home chargers, and you could make it a little bit cheaper by doing some tariffs that help with overnight charging and draw down your energy costs. And you do have to bear in mind, of course, that public charging is going to see that price ramp up loads. So again, home charging is going to be the best way, but there are definitely savings to be made, aren't there?
So, what made you decide to switch to electric in the first place?
I was due to change my car anyway, and I have been toying with the idea of an electric car. I like the fact that it's environmentally friendly. I was conscious of pollution in the air. At the time I had diesel. I also like the idea of the fact that you can just top up your car in your own home, so you don't need to go out and go to the nearest petrol station. You can just plug it in at home, and you can use an app to set it up when it's cheap. And also it was really cheap to run as well.
Is there anything that you know now that you wish that you'd known before you bought the EV?
So I wish I knew that you can sign up to all these different subscriptions. I also wish I knew that you had to have all these different apps and all these different cards and different key rings. There's lots of different ways to charge your car, and I didn't really know that at the start. But obviously now that I know, it's much easier to go about charge your car.
And so, how have you found the infrastructure then?
I've noticed in the last couple of years or so, there has been more charging points that has popped up, but I do wish there was more, because you do find sometimes that when you get to a charge point, it may not be working, or there are other people using it. But everyone seems to have really good etiquette when it comes to charging. You know, I have had notes that have been left. If you've finished, can you please let me know? You don't charge to full if you know someone's waiting. But in terms of infrastructure, it definitely could be improved, but it's getting there.
Yeah, I've been finding that too. I've been running a Skoda Enyaq, so Skoda's electric car, for a couple of months, and I've noticed that the infrastructure definitely is a little bit hit and miss. Some places it's excellent and you get a really good experience, and then other times it's just not quite what you want. And it's actually, we've got a video coming out on that soon too, so if you're interested, you can check that out.
And what about price increases at the moment? Have you noticed that sort of affected you at all?
there has been an increase in prices, but not as much as you would normally pay in a petrol. So I've not really seen that much of a change. There is still places that charge for free. In terms of the cost of the car, I actually got a phone call to tell me I can upgrade and it won't cost me any extra to change my car that I've only had for a year. So I got my car quite quickly. And it's got all the apps and upgraded version of it, which is brilliant. So yeah, it is expensive, but I think because I'm not having to pay for petrol, it's just balance it out for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because it's about taking everything into consideration, isn't it? And looking at the overall costs. So while an EV might be more expensive to purchase in the beginning, and let's be honest, they are more expensive than a traditional petrol or diesel car, they're going to be cheaper in a lot of other areas compared to those ICE cars. Obviously, fueling it is going to be a little bit cheaper, or charging it up if you have got home charging, and servicing is another area where it's going to be much cheaper because EVs just simply don't have as many moving parts. There's nothing to change quite like that you would have in a petrol or diesel car. So there's no cam belts, there's no heads, there's no oil filters, all sorts of areas where petrol cars, their prices do ramp up. That's something that EVs are gonna come back on. So I think it's that consideration, it's that balance that you need to check out really.
So do you think you'll stick with an electric vehicle?
Yeah, definitely, especially with the preheat of your car when it's frosty out there. It's been like absolutely brilliant the last few days. I can just get my app, turn it to preheat, and it turns it on. And as long as you're organised, if you're going for long distances, then there's no reason why everyone can't go for an electric car, because it's definitely the way forward, and I have no regrets. So yeah, and the batteries can only get bigger, so who knows how far you can go with just one charge.
In conclusion, there are lots of things to consider when trying to understand if an EV will save you money. And there is no one answer that applies to everybody. To understand if an EV will save you money, first you need to calculate your current costs. Is your current car the right car for the types of journeys you make? Remember too that electric cars won't qualify for emissions charges such as those for entering London. This helps to drive down the total cost of ownership even further.
If you do the sums and you realise that an EV would be more cost efficient than your current vehicle, then fantastic. And head to motors.co.uk and begin to explore the many options available so you can narrow down which one might work best for you. But don't stop there. Once you've got an EV, there are other factors that you need to keep in mind to make further savings.